Today we're building a practical and accurate anchor chain counter for your boat. With this setup, you'll receive real-time feedback about exactly how much chain is deployed, personalized recommendations about the amount of chain to deploy based on your depth, and smart alerts if your scope becomes insufficient. It's a smart, integrated solution that enhances safety, precision, and provides peace of mind during anchoring. We'll build the anchor chain counter using an ESP32, an INA219 voltage sensor, and a simple magnetic pulse sensor. Like our previous project, this setup integrates seamlessly into our smart boat system, giving you instant access to anchor deployment data right from your Home Assistant dashboard. The ESP32 acts as the central hub, wirelessly transmitting anchor chain deployment back to your smart boat system. If you're new to the ESP32, don't worry. I have a dedicated video guide to help you set it up step by step. We'll use the INA219 sensor to detect when your anchor winch is operating. The INA219 measures the winch voltage, telling our system whether you're letting out chain or retrieving chain. Combined with a magnetic sensor placed next to your anchor winch, our system counts each rotation of the gypsy to precisely calculate how much chain is deployed. The magnetic sensor works by generating a pulse every time a magnet passes by, incrementing or decrementing our pulse count based on whether the anchor chain is being let out or pulled in. By configuring the distance per pulse calibration value, you can precisely tailor the system to your specific winch and chain size. One of the standout features of integrating this chain counter into our smart boat system is Smart Scope. This intelligent feature automatically calculates and recommends exactly how much chain you should deploy based on your real-time depth readings. What's especially clever is that our system lets you configure different scope ratios based on depth ranges. In shallow water, because the absolute length of chain deployed is short, the chain's catenary effect is weaker. To compensate, you typically use a higher scope ratio such as 7:1 or even greater to ensure sufficient holding power. Conversely, in deeper water, more chain is naturally deployed, increasing the chain's catenary effect significantly due to the greater weight involved. This stronger catenary effect often allows you to safely choose a slightly smaller ratio, like 4:1 or 3:1, to avoid unnecessary chain deployment while still maintaining secure anchoring. Additionally, the system instantly alerts you if insufficient anchor chain has been deployed according to your personalized settings. For instance, if your boat swings around into much deeper water due to changing wind or current, you will receive an immediate notification that the current scope is no longer adequate. On your smart boat dashboard, you'll clearly see real-time updates, including the anchor chain sensor state, the chain length deployed, and an indication when the winch is operating. There's also a convenient button to reset the chain length to 0 whenever you fully retrieve your anchor, ensuring accurate data even after repeated anchoring and retrieval cycles. I'll provide the dashboard code to make the setup quick and straightforward. Installation does require a bit of effort and precision. You'll need to attach this small magnet directly to the gypsy of your anchor winch, ideally in a location that won't interfere with the chain path. Then mount the magnetic sensor securely to the wind base, ensuring it's positioned close enough to detect the magnet as it rotates with the gypsy. Once the physical setup is complete, connect the magnetic sensor and the INA219 to your ESP32, and then configure everything in Home Assistant using the provided code. If you're running a 24-volt system, don't worry. The INA226 is a simple upgrade that handles higher voltages and the setup remains identical. And if you haven't yet set up your boat as a smart boat, I've created a tutorial playlist that will guide you through the entire process. So let's get started. Here with the ESP32, it's already mounted on the mounting board. For more information, watch my previous tutorial video on the ESP32. Now I have this already pre-wired with the positive and ground and the two signal wires that will go to the INA219. So same with the INA219. I have a previous video you can watch to find out more about the INA219. So we connect this to the 4 wires to the 4 pins on the INA219. The first one is the red power, the 3.3 goes to the VCC pin. The ground goes to the second pin, which is the ground. And then we have the 2 other wires, which are pins 17 and 18 on ESP32. That go to the SCL and SDA signal pins of the INA219. Now the INA219 will detect our winch voltage when it's being winched up. So we'll use the VIN plus. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just doing this on my workbench. So I'll just put a short red wire in here, connected to the VIN plus terminal. And this will be connected to your anchor winch, the positive of the anchor winch on the side of when you press it to retrieve your anchor. So when it comes up or onto the solenoid, either way. Here we have the magnetic sensor. It's actually manufactured by Quick, so it's a proper production magnetic sensor. It works like a reed switch. So the power comes in on the red, and when it detects the magnet, then the power will then come out on the black wire. It's like a normally open switch. So to wire it up, we're going to connect the red to the 3.3 volts of the ESP32, and then the black will go to pin 15 on the ESP32. So when the sensor detects a magnet, it will then, on the black wire, 3.3 volts will go along the black wire, and the ESP32 will detect that there's voltage, and will know that the winch is being operated. As the gypsy is rotating and the sensor detects the magnet is passing frequently. So here we have the setup, the INA219 with the wire that goes to the anchor winch or the solenoid, and the ESP32 and the magnetic sensor. Now this works, so when the magnet passes the sensor, it's a very tiny magnet, and normally you put this, you drill a hole into the base of your anchor winch gypsy, but there's many ways. So when it passes, it will, the normally open switch will close, and it will be signaled to the ESP32 with the current voltage. Now I have a link to the manual on how to install this magnetic sensor on your winch from Quick, and it's very useful and it's quite detailed. So to test it out on a workbench, I'm just going to connect a USB-C cable. This is actually a newer ESP32. It's a S3, which is a faster, newer one. And again, I have it in my video description below, the details of this. So if you want to test it when it's all on your workbench as well, so when you pass the magnet, you should be able to see on the ESPHome or the dashboard that the anchor winch is operating. And if you want to test on your workbench the INA219, you can just connect the red wire just momentarily to the 3.3 volts. So that will sort of simulate that the anchor winch is being retrieved and the winch is powered up. So here we are in Home Assistant. This is my home dashboard. I've made the font size a bit larger so it's easier to see, so this page doesn't render that well. So first we'll go to the ESPHome, and I've already pre-set up a chain ESP YAML. It's just got the base YAML inside it, which is available on my website under base ESP32 YAML in the code section. So it's just got the bare cut down part of YAML you need. So what we need to do is go to my website, and if you go to the code section of my website and then scroll down, and then you can get to a smart chain counter code. Now here I've put down 4 bits of code you can download, and we'll go through, download them all onto your PC. But one's the YAML for the ESPHome, the other's the configuration for the dashboard, the automation, and also a template helper for the smart scope. So if we download all of those, and if we go back to the ESP32, and we'll just copy and paste what I have in there. So it's added this, I'll just slowly go through it. It's got the I2C for the INA219, the pins it's connected to, some globals I need for this calculation. Here's the bit of the configuration for the magnetic sensor. Now, it's pretty much straightforward. There's delayed on and delayed off. At 2 times you might need to manipulate, depending on how quick your anchor gypsy rotates. And here's just a bit of basic code. So we're only using 1 voltage sensor. So if the voltage on your INA219 is more than 2 volts, then we're actually retrieving the anchor, we're pulling it up, otherwise it's going down. In this section, you need to configure this value here, the distance per pulse. So it's basically how many pulses per meter. Now the best way you probably do is just to let out like 10 meters of chain and then count how many pulses. Now you can count the pulses. I've set this to 20 centimeters per pulse, but when you're calibrating this, maybe set this to 1, and then you can see how many pulses are used to let out 10 meters of chain, and then do a calculation and divide the 10 meters by the number of pulses you counted to get your distance per pulse. You just have to play around with it. The longer the distance of chain you put out, the more likely the value will be correct. And then we just have the configuration for the INA219. If you have a 226 24 volt, just put a 226 configuration here, and then just a code for the switch. Okay, so we'll save that, go back, do my normal validate, which I always like to do, and then install wirelessly OTA. This will take a while, so I'll speed it up. So here it's compiled correctly and it's just outputting the log. So next thing we need to do, we need to put a template helper. Do that via settings, helper, create a helper, and we're going to create a template helper. Template a sensor. We're going to call the sensor recommended chain length. And again, this is the second code that you can download from my website, which is the smart scope. Now what that does, it uses your depth. Now you have to put whatever your sensor name is for your depth gauge. I have mine as EMR depth. Now this is my own personal formula. You can change this however you like. I round it up in the end. If you get trouble with this, ChatGPT is really good nowadays with basic YAML. So you can just give it to ChatGPT and say, hey, I have a template sensor. I want to have this sort of ratio. But basically this is saying if the depth is less than 3, have a ratio 7:1. If it's less than 5, 5:1. It's not perfect, and you can do a much more complicated one you want, but for this video, this will suffice. You put a unit of measurement of a meter, and that should do. And you can already see it's already calculating the recommended chain length based on my depth. So it's saying I need to have 16 meters of chain out. So we submit. Okay, so we have that, the smart scope set up. So let's go create a dashboard. Get a new dashboard. Let's call it chain counter. A little icon. We have a link, chain link. Create. If we go down, it's created here. So we go to that, onto the pencil. Double click in the raw configuration editor. Now just grab my dashboard code that I have on my website, and you need to replace everything that's here. So copy and paste, and then save. Go back, and done, and there you go. So it's pretty basic, and again you can add some more, but it's got the anchor chain sensor if it's off. If it's on, it's detecting the magnet. I have 0 chain length deployed. The winch is not powered up, so it's not powered up at all. And let's say if I do anchor, I should put 16 meters out. So if you wanted to play with it, just on your workbench, if I move the magnet over the sensor, you can see the anchor chain turns on. And since it's not powered up, it's going to be the same as I'm letting the chain out. And then if you power it up, the winch up, it's going to go, the chain length deploy is going to go in the opposite direction. And there's a button if you need to reset it back to 0. The last bit of code I added is for an automation. So if you are anchored and the amount of chain you have deployed is less than the recommended chain length, say if you swung around, or heaven forbid you've dragged somewhere into deeper water, you can set up an alert. So we'll just add an automation, a new automation, and then we'll just go here, the 3 dots, and edit in YAML, and again grab the automation from my website, override everything that's in here. So we're going to call it chain scope alert. Now basically it's just checking if the chain length deployed is greater than or equal to the recommended. It does a simple test to see if you're anchored or not. If you've got less than 5 meters of chain deployed, then you're not anchored. Otherwise you won't know the difference between when you're anchored and not anchored, and you'll get notifications all the time. So let's just save that. Again, if the name of your ESP32 is, you call it something different, then I have chain ESP32. This same applies in the dashboard. You have to change this. So maybe it's easy if you just call your ESP32 ESPHome definition chain underscore ESP32. Now the hardest part is actually physically installing this on your deck and your Gypsy. But the provided quick sensor is waterproof, and it's set up for production use. You just have to figure out a good way and read the manual of how to install it. I'll have that on the video description below. Thank you for joining me today in exploring the incredible world of smart boating. If you found this video helpful and informative, I would appreciate if you hit the like button below. And if you'd like to stay updated with more exciting content on boating and technology, consider subscribing to my channel by clicking the subscribe button. Your support means a lot and helps me create more valuable videos like this. Until next time, hasta luego.